ओम स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरु पादपद्मे तयोः श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुः। नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहाय। So let us continue our study of the great master Prasanga and his divine play. In Bengali it is called the Leela Prasanga. ठाकुर के जीवन के बारे में विस्तारित रूप से जो स्वामी शारदानंद महाराज जी ने रचाया. So last time we were discussing this idea. Thakur's teachings to his devotees can be classified into two categories. That is, one about the divine grace and the second self-effort. In fact, this is a very commonly discussed idea. कई बार हम लोग का डाउट आ जाता है whether it is मैं कितना करूं, कितना भगवान की कृपा, how much is God's grace and how much. कई बार लोग बताते रहते हैं तो भगवान जानते हैं, ठाकुर जानते हैं, माँ जानती है, but they don't mean anything. जब जितना मेरा करना संभव है हम सब विषय सब कर लेता हूँ. Whenever it relates to मेरा प्रॉपर्टी है, मेरा कुछ है, whatever I want, whatever is needed for our self, that हम लोग तो बहुत ही तत्पर है, immediately we attend to all that. But when it brings to other things, भगवान जानते हैं, ठाकुर, तो that is not the way, because it can't be like that. And of course, there's a very clear, beautiful way in which Thakur explains. कई बार उन्होंने भी किया था. Because there's a very famous story about the elephant god and the mouth god. There also this idea, although Thakur has used it for some other idea, but then I think embedded, this idea is also embedded there. See, एक गुरु ने उनका सब शिष्यों को बताया, तो सर्वभूते आप नारायण दर्शन करो. You see God in everything, Narayana in everything. सब शिष्य लोग सब स्नान करने के लिए गया. वापस आते समय एक पागल हस्ती ने इधर उधर बहुत दौड़ रहा है. So the Mahat was shouting, go away, jaldi bhago. So all the other disciples ran away to safety. But one disciple simply, started doing Narayan Stuti. वो उठाया सूर में जोर से, ऐसा जोर से मारा होता मर ही जाता ऐसे अवस्था हो, तो चला गया. Then the disciples somehow brought him to the ashrama. थोड़ा शिशु सब किया. उसके बाद टीचर ने, गुरु ने पूछा, अरे तुम तो क्यों भागे, बाकी लोग तो भागे, why are you standing? नहीं आप तो ना सिखाया, you see नारायण and everything. अरे तो आप क्यों माहौत के अंदर क्यों नारायण नहीं देखा? वो भी तो बोला था ना, you saw only God in elephant, why not God in Mahut, the person was controlling, is it not? So that way, see there, the idea of divine grace and this thing also to some extent, because you have to make effort wherever it is necessary, because even that is also Bhagwan ki there. Our tendency to do effort, you must understand it's all because of, she ultimately believed that it is God who is guiding our destiny. वही सब देख रहे हैं, वही सब कर रहे हैं. If that is the idea that we hold, then हम लोग को कुछ करने का फुर्सत भी वही दे रहे हैं. He only gives us the idea to strive, to struggle, everything. So there is no point in just only when we do our utmost we can expect that. जहाँ भी ये भी बताते हैं ना, if you move one step, God will move 10 steps. और तो कम से कम आपको तो एक कदम तो उठाना है, तब तो भगवान 10 कदम आएंगे. So everywhere, there is, in all our scriptures, in all our traditions, there is enough room for self-effort. God helps those who help themselves. ये कहते हैं ना. So unless we make our best effort, we can't expect any divine intervention. लेकिन स्वामी ठाकुर ऐसे ही समझाते थे. So he was saying, I have cooked everything. मैं सब बनाया, आप खा लो सब. You need only to enjoy. I have cast the mold, you put your mind into it and shape yourself accordingly. मैंने सब बना दिया, आप उसके डाल के बना लो खुद का. Then if you can't do anything, give me your power of attorney. ये भी बताया गिरीश घोष का. Depending upon the disciple, उनकी जैसे है, so he always used to give different type of instructions. But then he has also said, give up all your desires one by one. Only then you will succeed. Be like a cast off leaf before gale. Renounce lust and gold and call on God. Then he said, I have done 16 parts में 16 आना कि आप एक आना कम से कम करो. So, because, the two ideas, whether it is divine grace or self-effort or self-surrender or intense spiritual practice by oneself. So this is always a very gray area which people often misunderstand. So Dakshineswar means Saradanji लिख रहे हैं. We had a long discussion with Niranjanananda. At the time it was Niranjan, about whether human beings have free will. हम लोग खुद ही करने का हम लोग का क्या क्षमता है क्या? Can I do anything by myself? What is called the free will. Then, they were discussing. Finally, they went to Thakur. Then he said, he was, उनका तो मजा आया. Finally, he said, is there any free will? किसी का ऐसे कोई है क्या? सब तो भगवान की इच्छा से ही हो रहा है. Then, लेकिन इसमें तो अंत में पता होगा. See, in fact, that's why they say, you have to do intense sadhana to understand that अपना साधना से मिलेगा नहीं. ये समझने के लिए आपका बहुत साधना करना है. When you go to the end of it, then divine grace will descend. And then you will understand it's only to divine grace you get that ultimate, last mileage, so to say. यहाँ पार करना बहुत मुश्किल है. See, the dividing line between the earthly and the transcendental, आपकी जो what is there at the worldly level, and that at the real spiritual level or the transcendent level, which is beyond this. So यहाँ जितना संभव आप कर सकते हैं, लेकिन to really cross the line, get into the transcendental realm, it's possible only through divine grace. So आपका, you can explain it in many ways. Those who are completely in the non-dual schools, etc., they may say your own mind comes and guides you. Thakur also somewhere says your own Chidananda, inner mind, that is such a guide. These ideas also he has expressed. But then, one thing is certain. One has to do definitely tremendous self-effort. So Thakur is to explain, मनुष्य का जो फ्री विल, खुद का जो करने का क्षमता इतना ही है. मान लीजिए जैसे काउ दैट इज टेदर्ड बाय अ रोप, एक रस्सी से बांधा हुआ है, लेकिन रस्सी जितनी दूर वो रस्सी के माध्यम में जा सकता है, उसका तो खुद ही जाके घास लेना है, खाना है. Nobody will come and uproot or take out grass and feed the cow. So वहाँ जितना दूर है रस्सी है, that is the cow's ability to do self effort or प्रयास. सारी जगह खत्म हो गया, then गोपाल आके उसके दूसरी जगह फिर भागे. That is God's grace. और he may totally free the cow also. उसका पूरा खुला छोड़ ही देगा, वो भी हो सकता है. All that is God's grace or divine intervention. लेकिन तब तक, if the cow is simply sitting, God will come and feed me, it has to die of hunger only. उसका जिस एरिया, जितनी दूर तक वो प्रयास कर सकते हैं, उसका उतना प्रयास करना ही है. It has to do that much. Then beyond that, yes, one can expect divine intervention. So, the So there is a place for self-effort, and unless one really stretches oneself to the utmost, it is difficult to understand how the how the divine intervention takes place, etc. So somebody is asking, is it not then in human hands to practice spiritual disciplines? A person might simply say, whatever I do is according to God's will. जैसे भी बोल सकते हैं. Tagore says that what is the good in saying that? One may say there is no thorn, but one still cries when one's hand is pricked by a thorn. है ना, आप बोल सकते हैं बात कुछ नहीं, लेकिन it's really pricking you, it's really hurting you. So in the same way, spiritual discipline one should practice. If you don't properly use the power of God which is given to you, He won't give you more. That is why one needs self-effort or perseverance. Everyone has to make some effort. Only then can one attain God's grace. When one makes the effort, by God's grace, 10 lifetimes of suffering are finished in one time. But one must make some effort, even while depending on it. अब जितने भी भगवान पर भरोसा करेंगे ऐसे बोल सकते हैं, लेकिन one has to really make a serious effort. Then it's possible that you will get. Is it not? So everywhere, mother also used to say, you have to do your duty. You do, आपका कर्तव्य आप करते जाओ. समय पर सब जब होना होगा. Maybe when you do, see, ultimately, whatever maybe you may say, whatever may be the intervention or whatever it is, the idea is when you do more and more intense sadhana in the right way or the proper way, what happens? The mind becomes more and more prepared to receive. You see, आप एक ऐसी अवस्था में, see, unless you put on the proper space suit, etc., you cannot go and land in the moon. ऐसे ही का कपड़ा पहन के जा सकते हैं, संभव नहीं है. Even if in India or in other places you go when there's very say some 6,000 feet, 7,000 feet height में कुछ ऐसे कोई है, अभी जाना है, and you cover yourself completely. So like that, unless one is prepared, even if you see something, even if you get something, you'll be completely shattered, or you will not be able to recognize that. That will not work also. So when one prepares oneself through intense sadhana, what happens? One becomes purer and purer. The mind becomes refined. The whole personality becomes refined. In such a mind, in such a personality, there is a revelation of a higher truth. So whatever it is, only when you are transformed, only when we are pure, only when we are really fit enough to receive that kind of illumination, one can. So it's very necessary to do intense sadhana. That's what all those who have lived, in fact, beyond that also, even after, during Thakur's time, all the direct disciples had had experiences, spiritual experience on several occasions. Several types of spiritual, many had Nirvilka Samadhi, etc., etc. But after the Mahasamadhi of Sri Sri Thakur, many of them are seen doing intense tapasya. All of them left on parikrama, except Sachi Maharaj, who was day and night serving Thakur, and in that way he was doing intense tapasya. Day and night he was serving. So he was doing very intense tapasya, but staying at there only, at Baranagur Math. But all others, they went to Himalayas, went to other places. Somebody went to Tibet, Kandanji, like that. Everybody was. So somebody asked Raja Maharaj, see, Thakur has given you everything. Why are you doing such intense austerity or tapasya now? उन्होंने तो दिया, अपनाने के लिए मैं कर रहा हूँ. He has given. To make it our own, we are doing. ये होता है ना, बाप बहुत ही बड़े धनी है, सब रख के चला गया, लड़का तो 2 साल 3 साल से पूरा बर्बाद कर दिया. We see many such examples. So unless the son or the Uttaradhikari works to retain that wealth, keep it intact, maybe develop, one would go away. Same way only. So it's very necessary to do that kind of tapasya. But Thakur also gives a beautiful example how if you depend on higher power, your troubles, etc., can be greatly reduced. Because we all believe in karma phala, suffering due to that previous birth scar. So बोले एक बार नारद और विष्णु ने एक बार उनके साथ दिया, कर्स नारदा that you must suffer in the hell. कुछ किया. Then Narada was worried. He praised the Lord with hymns, etc. बोला भगवान मेरे तो बता दिए कहाँ हेल है, वेर इज नरक कहाँ है. So भगवान उन्होंने एक he was how many types of hell exist? I'm curious to know. तो विष्णु ने एक चाक लेके एक गोल करके सब बता दे, ये हेल है, ये हेवन है, ये यही है. Then Narad immediately rolled down on the place marked hell and said that my suffering is over. I have gone to hell. Then Vishnu with a smile asked, how could you suffer in hell? Narad replied, why not, Lord? You have created heaven and hell. As I rolled over it, my suffering was complete. So इतना विश्वास से उन्होंने कहा, भगवान विष्णु ने बोला हाँ तुम्हारा सचमुच हो ही गया. Your suffering in hell is over. So what is the idea? So the point is, whenever you depend on such a higher power, it doesn't mean that people normally higher power कैसे हम लोग डिपेंड करते हैं. Why you call it as a superstition or that kind of अंधविश्वास or blind faith? क्यों कहते हैं? There is nothing from our part. मैं कुछ नहीं करूंगा. कहाँ किसी ने मंदिर में गया, वहां के नारियल तोड़ा, यहाँ कुछ किया, वहां कुछ दान किया, यहाँ कुछ ही चढ़ाया, भोग चढ़ाया, उसमें हो जाएगा. कुछ नहीं किया, वहां जाके मंदिर में खड़ा होके बोल दिया, हो गया. That is blind faith or superstition. But if it is backed by intense effort from oneself, आप बहुत ही खुद ही मेहनत करते हैं, साधन करते हैं, then you really prepare yourself. Call it God, call it a superior power, call it your own refined mind, call it your own सच्चिदानंद within you. जिस नाम पे आप बोल सकते हैं, the most important thing is the inner preparedness, the refinement, the purification of the mind. Then it is possible to experience all that. So, to experience higher states. So, in whatever system you see, whether it's yogas or even Patanjali Yoga, the Ashtanga Marga and all that, you see step by step how one has to prepare oneself. Then it is possible to experience a higher thing in life. So, Thakurist explained this because there is room for both heaven and hell. That means self-effort and also divine grace. See, Vishnu ne itna dikhaya, but Narad did that much. In that portion, his mind was so tuned, he experienced intense suffering. Although it was for a very short time, still he experienced such intense suffering. And due to divine grace, his overall experience of going to hell and being there for maybe for a long time, that was completely taken care of. Assuming human bodies and living like human beings, avatars to a great extent experience our short-sightedness and limited knowledge. Like us, they must struggle to discover a path to liberation from all these limitations. So जब भगवान मनुष्य रूप धारण करके जब आते हैं, उनको भी मनुष्य की तरह ही सब कुछ करना है. ऐसा नहीं है फ्रॉम जन्म से ही वो आकाश में उड़ते उड़ते जाएंगे. No, nothing like that. Then there is no need for an avatar to come on earth. When it comes in this human body, it has also to go through all that. But then it is not that they completely forget their divine nature or divine inheritance. बीच बीच में एक झलक दिखा देता है. It's shown every now and then in a spark, but largely it gets covered. वो हमेशा याद नहीं रखते. तो बोले ना संभवामी आत्मा माया. So their own maya, because otherwise, if they completely remember, then in no time they will reach the goal, and they won't be able to set a model for the humanity to follow. भी ठाकुर का जीवन में आप देखिए, उन्होंने बोला मैं जितना किया आप इसकी एक अंश कर, you do a portion, a little fraction of whatever I did, but he did to the highest level. For example, his initial sadhana till the first vision of the mother, unbelievable levels of intensity. So if he was really God, there's no need that way. But because he took a human form, just like human beings, but then taking it to a very high level, to the pinnacle, so that they set very high standards. कोई साधन कितना करना है उतना करना है. To that extent, if you do, you are bound to get the vision. You are bound to get the ultimate realization. So, nobody can complain. At the same time, he also shows the way. Yes, this is how you should proceed. These are the difficulties you will get. These are the obstacles on the path. So this is how we should overcome. उनका भी तो इतना कम उम्र में पितृवियोग हुआ. He lost his father at a very young age. So he suffered like others. How young children, when they lose a father at a very young age, the type of sorrow and suffering, all that he went through, and also uh, poverty. Just hardly the minimum was available for food and comforts, etc. So he went through all that. He did not. He did not have a great life of vaibhava or plenty or anything like that. Just barest minimum. So then, in and through that, he discovered and then has left a wonderful model for us. Until that path is discovered, the awareness of the divine nature sometimes manifests itself, but only momentarily. We also saw several instances, even at a young age, when he went to the Visalakshi temple or on the Shivratri night, or when he saw a flight of cranes, the backdrop of very dark clouds, all that, just a flash of lightning, like once in a way. But apart from that, completely hidden. खेल कूद में व्यस्त है, वेरी बिजी, रनिंग अबाउट, प्लेइंग विथ अदर्स, ऑलवेज जॉयफुल, cheerful, बहुत कुछ करते थे, just like any other nice child. But then slowly as he grew up, the situation is also made ripe like that. It was all very happy thing, not nice. So it's also an indication how sorrow and suffering can drive us to something superior. एक बार हम लोग ना कोई दुख किसी को पहुंच जाए जीवन में, वो इधर उधर सब खुद का जीवन भी बर्बाद करते हैं, दूसरों भी करते हैं. There are people who spend their life like that. कोई दुख को आया, कोई कष्ट आया, कोई गुजर गए, something happened, someone passed away, some loss, something, they completely ruin their lives and that of others. But here Thakur is showing the other way. Yes, suffered a terrible loss of his father at a very young age, but that made him reflect. This is the nature of human life. ऐसे ही होता है सबको. So इस धरती पे कुछ नहीं है. इतना बचपन में, then now and then he would go and sit in the smashan, in that burial ground, alone, thinking, what is it? What is life? What is the end? Where should we go? Then साथ के साथ, because he was authorized, he was empowered to worship Raghuveer, spend lots of time in prayers, etc. So the mind was slowly, going away from any worldly pursuit, not only worldly, even the smallest of joys, to something very serious, very transcendental. So one can understand. So many people in the world, what is the way? Yes, Thakur has shown. Why don't you follow that? Thus, for the good of many, they accept the veil of Maya and, like us, grope along the path in this realm of light and darkness. Because the spiritual, they see more light during their spiritual journey than we see, because they do not have any trace of selfishness. इतना निस्वार्थी बन जाते हैं. For them, so naturally, when you have the other ingredients, then the sadhana also becomes very intense. It also becomes more purposeful, and the fruition or the realizations also come thick and fast. They focus all of their energy in one direction and quickly solve life's problems. Afterwards, they devote themselves to doing good to humanity. So, खुद का जो हो गया, then rest of the life they spend it loka sangraha, or how to guide humanity. So, the Sri Ramakrishna actually admitted his human imperfections. So we shall benefit greatly by discussing his human aspect. That is why we request the reader to study Master's divine aspect while always keeping in mind his human characteristics. If we do not think of him as one of us, we shall not be able to find meaning in the superhuman enthusiasm and effort he made at the time of his sadhana. Why should he, who is eternally perfect, need to attain the truth? Again, we may think that his lifelong effort was nothing but a matter of show. He was only pretending. It was not real sadhana because he was God himself. He was everything. What is the need for him to attain the goal or truth or anything? That is no. His effort, steadfastness, renunciation, when he applied in his life for God realization, may cause terrible apathy in our hearts instead of encouraging us to emulate him. And in this life, we will not be able to break free from inertia because we will think that whatever he did was only show, it was not real. But if you think that, uh, as although we long for the Master's grace, we nonetheless must also accept him as a person endowed with human feelings like us. हम लोग की तरह वो भी एक मनुष्य देहधारी मनुष्य थे उनका भी human, although we do not see many of those human imperfections which we see everywhere. बचपन से of course he was like that. इतने निस्वार्थी थे, इतना भगवत प्रेमी थे. He was so devoted to his parents. He was very obedient. He was loving. He was charming. He was good to everybody. All those qualities were there. But playfulness, all those things were also there. Not that he was always immersed only in dhyana or meditation or anything. He also used to play, go about, make fun with the village boys, his schoolmates, take them to the mango grove and do yatra, etc. और पैन के घर पे जाके उनके ऐसे कि उनका कोई ये करना मजाक उड़ाना, all that he did. So because he is sympathetic to our misery, the master is to hum forward to mitigate our suffering. Therefore, from whatever angle we look at it, we have no option but to think of him as human being. In fact, until we become free from all forms of bondage and have established ourselves in that attributeless divine nature, we must think of and accept God and each another divine incarnations as a person. Because actually, it's a saying, Devo Bhutva Devam Yajit. When can you truly worship God? पूजा में ही करते हैं. कई बार सब तो पूजा के लिए बैठते हैं ना, इसलिए पूजा में बहुत सारे मंत्र है जिसकी वजह से आपके विभिन्न अंग कैसे वहां का अधिष्ठात्री देवता कैसे जग जाती है. So with that one, of course, we do it only as a symbol. It does not actually happen. But if one is really like that, it can. Then only one becomes truly fit for worshipping. How can you truly worship God? You can worship image. You can worship photos. You can worship Shivalinga. But to truly worship God, you must also become like that. See, there is Devo Bhutva Deva Meje. So of course, great souls, they have seen also. In Sims, somebody was doing Kali Puja in Benares or somewhere. Raja Maharaj was sitting. And the Pujari was doing all these various nyasas. He literally saw that the Devata of the each limb becoming alive. Because the Pujari, I don't know how much he felt, but it was a nice way he was doing. Raja Maharaj saw. So is it all? People have felt that way. So unless when you reach the highest level of maybe Nirvikalpa Samadhi, at that time only it's possible to understand the absolutely true nature of God. Till then, one has to worship God in that way with our own human imperfections and also understand avatars in that light only, that they also have a human side. And then only we'll be able to follow their instruction and work our spiritual journey in that fashion. So, Weak aspirants like ourselves are still far from that state. That's why, out of compassion for ordinary people like us, and to accept our heartfelt worship, God descends to the human plane, assumes a human body and human feelings. So, we cannot worship the absolute, we cannot get linked to it because of our own human imperfections. But God incarnate in our, yes, we can feel dear, we can feel this thing. That's why, so many people, they are worshippers of Gopala, because they feel that kind of, they don't think of him as that supreme God or anything. They feel that is our own. Mira Gopal, that kind of a feeling of, mamatva. That's why we have a greater opportunity to discuss the history of Sri Ramakrishna's sadhana than that of earlier avatars. As we also saw, you don't have much of recorded history of what sadhana Sri Krishna did, or Ramchandra did, or even Jesus did. But in the case of Sri Ramakrishna, we have a clear record. Why? Because he himself used to tell every now and then detailed account of what all he did, what all he go through, what were his visions, etc. Several times he had discussed with his disciple. And apart from that, see, because they had all come to Dakshineswar. So many of those who had seen Sri Ramakrishna do those intense sadhana, they were still alive, those who had seen him in those years. So from them also, they had heard detailed accounts of what all Sri Ramakrishna did. So therefore, it's very necessary one can study and understand properly. But before that, he says, before understanding the spiritual sadhanas of Sri Ramakrishna and discussing them, he says first we must understand what sadhana itself means. What is spiritual discipline actually? Sadhana is a word, we understand. What is that sadhana? Why then are we he said sadhana, many people have spent the energy for the direct experience of spiritual truth. This is already known. Why again this detailed discussion? Sadhana itself means one's quest for God, intense practice, unwavering spiritual disciplines, etc. But then she says, since we are familiar with the topic of sadhana, it may be one might think it is unnecessary, but it's still necessary because many people have very strange ideas about sadhana. साधना के बारे में बहुत सारे विभिन्न प्रकार सोचते हैं. कोई कहते हैं इतना उपवास करना ही साधना है, बिना कोई ऐसा कोई बहुत ही कम कपड़ा लेके बहुत ठंड में रहना और गर्म के समय बहुत कपड़ा पहनना. There are people who used to stand on one leg. That they saw that's a great form of sadhana. Somewhere one of our Swamis met someone who has never lied down to sleep. He only stand and sleep a little. For so many years, 30 years or 40 years, he has never lied down to sleep like that. So, we don't know, like that, various ways people have some strange ideas, People fast for days, not eat anything. So, strange ideas. Losing sight of the goal of sadhana, some people consider it to be more physical mortification, or the performance of rituals that require one to collect rare objects in a particular place, or control of breath, or even strange activities of deranged mind. So, all these people think that ये सब इतनी संग्रह करना नहीं, ये सब चीज ले आना है, ये सब सामग्री लगता है उसके लिए. Many people prescribe also, many tantras, tantrics, gurus, etc. Sometimes in many of our people also say, आपका ये करना है, ये होम करना है, आपका ये करो, इतना करने में सब ठीक हो जाएगा. So, all kinds of things are prescribed. So he says, no, what is really important. Great teachers sometimes advise disturbed people who are obsessed with evil impressions and habits to perform special practices to make them calm and normal so they can follow a spiritual path. Some people consider those prescribed spiritual disciplines to be sadhana and claim that they are suitable for every aspirant to practice. In addition, some people were attached to transient sensual objects of the world, make vain efforts under the erroneous notion that God can be controlled by means of mantras or particular rituals, like a snake charmed by a spell. So it will not be out of context to briefly discuss the truths of sadhana that were discovered by Indian sages through millennia persistent. Of course, nowadays these are all greatly reduced. One time there was Vamachara, living with people of other sex, etc., and drinking excess of wine. So many types of things were being observed. So everything, if the goal, first of all, one should understand what is the goal. What are we trying to achieve? Is it really helping me in that direction? So if one is very really very clear, vicharshil buddhi ho, and slowly one will definitely able to understand. So that is why, Snapchat made everything very, very simple. He never used to prescribe, even he did not even like people fasting too much and all that. Thoda. Rather, sometimes people whole day, I've seen someone, whole day, Ekadashi, Nirjala. द्वादशी में तो 3 दिन के खाना एक साथ खा लेते हैं. So but that is that's of no use. Trump should always say that moderation. Just you eat enough to sustain. Food for maintaining the body, not body for eating food, not the other way. So whatever is minimum required, so that you put a little and forget it. Otherwise, sometimes when you fast, day and night, whole day during Shivaratri, today I'm fasting, today I'm fasting. मैं सुबह से नहीं लिया, नहीं लिया, नहीं लिया. So all the mind is only on food. So taking a little and forgetting it much better. So Thakur used to say, what is essential? So this is also like a fire. To put something ahuti there, जठराग्नि में आहुति देके आप साधन में लग जाओ. He says it's most important to fix the mind on God and a higher aspect and sadhanas rather than thinking about externals. कोई तो इतनी बार स्नान करना, इतनी बार कपड़ा बदलना, इतनी बार ये करना. This family never used to morning get up and simply wash yourself and just maybe change clothes and sit for japa, sit for meditation, sit for taking God's name, bhajans, kirtan, naam. So he always used to insist on the essentials. नॉन एसेंशियल, हाँ किसी को क्या आपका ऐसा करके ज्यादा समय मिल जाए, सपोजिंग you fast and use that time profitably to do more sadhana, it's okay. Otherwise, thinking only about it all the time, that kind of fasting is of no use. So the master used to say, seeing Brahman or God in all beings is the last word of sadhana. Sarva bhuti brahmadarshi. और हर जगह पे भगवान की दर्शन करना. Yes, that is the end. At the culmination of sadhana, one reaches that place. The final, अंत में. The Vedas and the Upanishad, the most authoritative Hindu scriptures, support this statement. सब में ही है. अंत में ब्रह्म ज्ञान, ये ब्रह्म ज्ञान की वजह से आपकी एक ब्रह्म छोड़ के और कोई नहीं अनुभूति होती है. Nothing else. You only see oneness everywhere. So that is the ultimate. The scriptures say that whatever you see in the world is truly one non-dual Brahman, be it gross or subtle, sentient or insentient, bricks, wood, clay, stone, trees, plants, human beings, animals, gods, or demigods. You are seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, and tasting the same Brahman in various forms and in different ways. So, this way of explaining it. One thing is, one can also completely say that nothing exists. These are all only appearance. Then the other way of saying it, the same Brahman we are touching, we are feeling, we are hearing, we are experiencing, all that. So everything becomes kind of sacred. There's nothing to condemn, nothing to give up. So although you accomplish all of your daily activities with Brahman's help, you are unaware of it because you believe you are dealing with a multiplicity of objects and persons. Because we see many, we experience many, we think that they are different, they are independent. We do not see that oneness in all that. It's the same Brahman which is appearing in so many forms, but it doesn't come like that. So we feel that all these are all very different, and that is the reason why we are also not succeeding ultimately. So when we say that everything is finally one, so many don't understand also. अरे हम लोग तो ऐसी विभिन्नता हमेशा अनुभव करते हैं. We believe, we practice, we experience, we do everything. आप कैसे बता रहे हैं? So this topic will be easy for the reader to understand if we set forth in question and answer form certain doubts that arise and how the scripture satisfies. See, उन्होंने सबको समझने के लिए he is putting it in the form of question and answers. खुद ही वो प्रश्न करते हैं, जवाब भी देते हैं, ताकि इसके माध्यम में सब अच्छे से पता चल जाए. Question: Why do we not that all is perceive that all is Brahman? आप बोल रहे हैं सब तो एक ब्रह्मन छोड़ के कुछ भी नहीं है, हम लोग तो नहीं देखते हैं. We don't see, we don't perceive. Why then? The answer: you are deluded. Until your delusion is dispelled, how can you detect it? We recognize our delusions only by comparing our perceptions with real objects or states. You need to have a basis for comparison in order to discover that delusion. तो कहते हैं आप तो ऐसी कोई स्थिति में हैं. Supposing supposing you put very dark some kind of blinkers. Supposing someone ties your eyes tightly with some black cloth. Will you able to see this auditorium, or will you able to see audience sitting? Will you able to see all that? You cannot see. So to see all that correctly, you need to remove the blinkers. Someone has to remove. So this delusion or whatever is hiding the reality from us in a true sense, that has to be removed. The way विभिन्न प्रकार नाम दिया गया उसका. Unless that is removed, we cannot really see the truth or the reality. Because we are, or supposing you have a very specially colored glass, उसमें देखेंगे आपको तो लाल सीट नहीं दिखेगा. It will appear as green or blue or something else. So in the same way, if you are blinded by something else, then you see differently the reality. You don't see the real thing. What is the cause of the delusion? When did it come to us? ये क्या है, इसकी कारण क्या है? Why is it like that? कहाँ से आया? The cause of the delusion is ignorance, just as it is in all other situations. के कारण क्या है? अज्ञान or ignorance. How can you know when that ignorance first appeared? As long as you remain in ignorance, all your efforts to realize this will be futile. So इसके एक सवाल तो उठती है ना, when did that ignorance come? How it came? So Swamiji clearly answers is अज्ञान और माया के बारे में. Maya says, he says, supposing you are in a state of delirium, आपके 105-6 डिग्री बुखार चल रहा है, fever, and at that time you will never ask, कैसे, how did this fever come to me? You are in a complete state of total confusion. You don't ask and it doesn't arise. And once you are cured, it's no longer there. So as long as you are in the realm of Maya, you are struggling there. The question that how this ignorance, when it came, nobody can say. But we are in that, we know. Because again and again we see that we are not able to see the reality, we are not able to see the truth. See, our experience, one of the most important reasons or justification for a spiritual bent of mind or need for sadhana is our experience. You see, you compare all over the world, whether the richest or the poorest, or the most educated or totally uneducated, man or woman, young or old, everybody. In this life, there's a constantly we feel that something is missing, something is not all right. See, the suffering or dukkha, etc., comes in various forms to various people. Somebody in the form of some death, in the form of loss, in the personal life, disease, old age, so many things. So, if you compare again and again all over the world, that's why Bhagavan Buddha clearly said that. His initial statements of Buddhism are very, very simple. The life in this world means dukkha, is essential. Because we get now and then a little lollipops, like some birth happens, some marriage happens, some promotion happens, or some money comes, or something comes. But they all go away. No time. All those attractions go away. Whatever is there for 2 days, 3 days, then again it's back to the old. So, it comes in various forms to various people. Not everyone gets the same form. But basically, if you analyze, the content is ultimately it's a tremendous sense of dissatisfaction, loss of peace, loss of the kind of harmony and the state of equilibrium and things like that. So, it's invariable. That's why he said there is dukkha. And what is the reason for this? Dukkha is tanha, or desire. There is a way out of this dukkha, and that is the Ashtanga Marga. Only these four are the basic tenets. So, this life essentially, that's why, till we realize that, till one realizes that, one is busy with so many other things. The Thakur gives this example, there's the child, mother gives some toy to that child, and it keeps on playing. Mother is busy cooking. But then, suddenly, one point of time, it throws the toys and cries, unstoppable. Nobody is able to uh, pacify. Then the mother gives up everything and takes up in her arms. So, till we really feel that kind of misery, the absence, that we are away from God, we are away from my mother, we are away from our true, real nature, that we are really, groping in the dark, we are just, I say, bhatak rahe hain dharti pe. Unless that comes to us very strongly, impinges our mind, we do not feel the need for any intense spiritual practice or sadhana, etc. That's why only a very small percentage of people ultimately take to it. Because we are so busy, we are satisfied. आज बहुत मार खाया, काल कुछ मिला, सब भूल गए. अरे काल इतना हुआ, अरे आज मजा है. So again, every now and then, whether it is God, whether it is Prakriti or whatever it is, something keeps happening in our life. उसी लेके हम मस्ती करते रहते. Then again, getting beaten, getting dukkha, getting suffering, getting everything, going, oscillating between constantly. All our life goes. Then at one point of time, when it is too old, when nothing is possible, then some people realize. Then at that time, it is not possible at all to do anything very serious. So, it's very important to realize that why this sadhana is necessary, why people are not feeling that kind of attraction. So he says, of course, because we are in a state of ignorance. As long as we remain in ignorance, all our efforts to realize this will be futile. As long as one is dreaming, the dream appears to be reality. When one awakens, the dream is compared to the waking state and is recognized as unreal. So, when you are always in that realm only, you need something to know and compare. Why dream becomes so unreal? Because when you compare to waking state, it is real. Similarly, our life, when it's compared to something superior, then only we will know that this is meaningless, this is useless, what we are pursuing is not worth it. So that is why they say, Thakur also says, you seek the company of the holy. इसलिए सत्संग के बारे में करते हैं. How does the mind becomes quiet when you live in such presence, in the company of such people? ऐसी ऐसी जगह पे जाते में, how the mind quietens. Then one gets a little idea. Then one can pursue. While perceiving the world in the waking state, some people might even have an idea of something superior, but that will not last unless we are really serious and we practice. What is the way out then? One must eradicate ignorance. I can definitely assure you that delusion and ignorance can be removed. The sages of the past were able to rid themselves of ignorance and have left us instructions for doing the same. So, if you compare, particularly in a country like India, where you have thousands of years of history, where, well documented, recorded lives of sages, munis, rishis, and others who had lived a great life. So, if you compare, you find that they worked and worked and worked, and ultimately, you see, otherwise, what is normally, what is the fear? अरे इतना मेहनत करना, इतना कष्ट सहन करना, क्या जरूरत है? ऐसे जैसे से मिल रहा है मस्ती करो. But the point is, all these are all again and again bringing us back to the same place. Again and again, in some other form, the suffering keeps on appearing. But those who have worked very hard, a long number of years through intense spiritual practice, once they get something, that remains permanent. There is no, after that, there is no coming back. There is no coming down from that state. Then whatever happens, see, ultimately, ultimately in our life, if the things which really bother us, namely this body and this mind, which really bind us down, supposing we find a solution, whereby whatever be my body, whatever be my mind, I'm always peaceful, I'm always satisfied, I'm always calm, I'm always happy, then why not strive for that? Why not try for that? That's what people have done. That's what people have done it successfully. So one has to, of course, one has to work slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. But then Sharatmara says, the says the past were able to do this, and they've also given us instructions how it is possible. So what is the real proof is those who have already trodden this path and have got the results. That's why Gita says, Adyat acharati shreshtaha tatteva itaro janaha chayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanavartate. Whatever the great people have done, they have left that path. It's for others to follow and get those benefits. So we'll continue next week. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ram Krishna. So tomorrow we will not have Gita class because I will not be here. And next Saturday we'll have, of course, Great Master. Next Sunday we'll have one day